Hello, happy Friday, Sretan Petak. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and this is 5 Question Friday. Every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, I answer 5 questions about Croatia from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, expatinCroatia.com, email our consulting sessions, and people who try to present them to me through a Jack in the Box, which I don't care for because they always make me nervous and then I get scared because the thing pops out. So please don't do that. I don't care for it at all. What's going on? How's your week been? I had a great week. Oh, this week got me so energized and I really needed it and I loved it so much. So let me tell you a little bit about my week. So I was in the office one day on Monday, and then Tuesday was a big holiday here in Split. It's Split City Day, but also we celebrate the patron saint of Split, or at least the one who people care about, Sveti Duja. And then also, that is my Crow anniversary. I celebrated 12 years this year. And, I was just chatting with a friend of mine who's a fan who I met through Expat in Croatia, and who was asking me, well, what is the feeling that you associate with, kind of an anniversary like this? Is it a sense of accomplishment? Is it a milestone? Is there peace associated with it? Does it give you, excitement for the future? And I never really been asked that before. So when I was thinking about it because of this prompt. And really, it is a milestone. I can't say that it gives me peace, per se. That's not how I would characterize it. To me, it's like every year I celebrate this, which I really love doing, because it's a big deal to me that I've been able to be here as long as I have been. And it was not easy. So there is this giant sense of accomplishment. And also, it's just a night and day difference from my life when I got to Croatia and what my life looks like now. Even 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, my life has changed so much, and I've done so much and experienced so much. And so it does give me this sense of accomplishment. And I also kind of just reflect back. So it gives me a moment. I take a moment of solitude to just kind of think about it, And will I continue to celebrate it for the next 50 years? I don't know. I may not. But I think because it coincides with this holiday in Split, I think that also amplifies it, because I love this holiday. It's like a big block party in town, and everyone in Split comes out. Even if the weather's garbage, everyone in Split comes out. It's a huge celebration, and there's all these different events throughout the day. So for example, in the morning, they have a big fish, and you have to guess how much the fish weighs. And then at noon, the culinary school makes this giant pot of gra and kobasice, so beans and sausage. And they also have a bunch of kruh, bread. And so people kind of gather around the perimeter by the fish market, and they're just waiting, and it's just free. And they just hand it out until there's none left. They have Klappa. I love Klappa. It just gives me goosebumps. And so they have that performance. They have the procession, which I'm not religious, but I love watching the procession through town. That's always a really beautiful experience. There is always a concert at night. So this past Tuesday was Petar Grašo. He played. And then they play tombola, which is kind of like a bingo game. And then after that, they have fireworks. So there's just all these different things, but also you're kind of going around town. You're running into people you have a great lunch. It's just, I could just do it all day. I try and get there first thing in the morning. There's also this kind of it's almost like an unspoken game, trying to get a seat at a cafe bar on Riva, or any seat at any cafe bar. But the most prized positions are on Riva in the very first row. So you find that people are just hovering around, trying to snag the first seat. Sometimes you just can't do it. So it's really fun. I love it so much. So I think, at least for the foreseeable future, I'll probably continue to celebrate it and recognize it. I used to have like a bunch of friends who come out. Now, I'm kind of getting up there in the number of years, so I don't need to do a whole thing anymore. Like I did a really big thing for my 10th year, but last couple of years don't need to do that. So it was a really big blast, and I had such a good time. So then the last 3 days, I've been doing this design sprint boot camp at the Ekonomski Fakultet at the University of Split. So there was an EU project. They got funding for that project, and as a result, we were able to bring this gentleman named John, who lives in Germany. He's from Romania, and he has this company called the Design Sprint Academy, and they do these certifications in design facilitation. And luckily, I had a connection. I had a visit because my neighbor, Anna, she worked on the project, and so she told me about it, and I read the program and was like, oh, this is such a great fit for me, yay. And then I invited a friend who I knew would be a great fit, and I loved it so much. I learned so much. I got to meet a lot of really great people, and it just I like being a student, and I haven't been a student in so long. And today we had a few new people join today. And one guy who is a student at the faculty, he was like, so you're a student, right? And I'm like, 20 years ago, I was a student. I accept the compliments. But yeah, it was really fun to kind of learn and interact, and we built prototypes and were able to go through all these different exercises, and I really enjoyed it. So my brain is mushy. I won't lie. I mean, it usually always is on Friday afternoons, as you know. But it's extra mushy. But I do feel that I'm just kind of like beaming from the experience. So I'm really grateful that I was able to do that. And through that, I met a woman who, a lot of the people that were in that room, they work on EU projects. So there were some professors, there were some students, and then there were people who work on EU projects, and then me. And so apparently they have an EU project that they're working on with the Tourist Board of Split, and they want to interview a foreigner who's lived in Split for a long time so that they can get some kind of inputs about their perspectives of Split. And so apparently she thinks I'd be a good match. So now I just have to be approved by the Tourist Board, so I might be able to participate in that. But I didn't really get to, I don't have any experience really with the EU projects. And so to kind of go behind the scenes and talk to all these people who that's like all they do is EU projects and kind of see the life cycle of that, it was like, ooh, I would love to participate in EU projects. I mean, and I don't just mean like, hey, I want to get funding for Expat in Croatia so that we can work on projects, but I mean actually participate and build something. And that is one of the goals of this program, this certification that we did, is that we go through the certification, which then gives us a qualification so that we can run EU projects in the future using this method, which it's not just about that for me. It's the methods that we, use to problem solve and to ideate, I think are going to be perfect to apply to what we do at Expat in Croatia. I mean, you guys only see what we put out there, but there is so much that happens behind the scenes at Expat in Croatia. There's so many ideas that we have and projects we want to do, but there's just only so much time in the day, and there's only so much human effort that we have. And, at the end of the day, we're a business, so we have to make sure that whatever we do focus on, that we're generating income so that we can continue to be a business. So we have all these ideas for things that are not, they're not going to make us money, but we want to do them because they're for the greater good. And so my hope is that in the future we can do more of that stuff. So, all right, I know that I've like totally enthusiasm vomited it all over you. So thank you for listening. Really enjoyed it. So what else do I want to tell you? So Sunday, I'm going on a picnic at the source of the Cetina River, which I went on a picnic there once, like 4 years ago now. It's maybe about an hour and a half drive from here. You may have seen some kind of drone photo or video of it on Instagram before. People say that it looks like a dragon eye from above. I think it looks like a vagina, but it's so beautiful, and it's kind of down in this little valley, and you can put your picnic blankets around it. And some people swim in there, but you really shouldn't swim in there because it's the source. It should be clean. They get drinking water from there and bottle it, so it's best not to swim in there. Don't swim in there. Even though at least when I was there before, they did not have signs that said don't swim. So don't do that. But it is a really nice place. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. And then on Monday, I leave Split super, super mega hella early, probably 6, to drive to Zadar so I can catch a 7-hour ferry to Lohšin Island, Lohšin. So next week, I'm going to be on the island of Susak. So you have to go to Island Lohšin before you can go to Susak. So it's 2 ferries. So I'll go on the ferry to Susak on Tuesday, and I will be there until Sunday. So I will do next week's 5-question Friday from Island Susak, which should be so cool. I've never been there before. I cannot wait to show it to you. By next Friday, we'll have already been there for 3-4 days. So I should be able to tell you lots about it. And my hope is that I will be somewhere planted and I can show you the island. So we'll see. If you have any questions about Susak, shoot them over to us and I will try and get them answered before next Friday. So let's start there. And the next Friday, I will tell you what I'm doing the week after that. The next 2 months are nuts for me. I'm doing so much travel. And some of it's personal, some of it is work related, but it's like this is the marathon. The marathon starts today, and then the next 2 months I'm mostly not in Split, and then I have nothing planned after July 1st, which I'm excited about. So, okay. Is that everything? Yes, that's everything. So now we're going to dive into the question. Thank you so much for being here. If you're just joining us, I am Sarah. This is 5-Question Friday, and I'm going to answer 5 questions about Croatia. So, first question comes from Rob. Rob, I met at a conference. He sent this to me on WhatsApp. There are so many types of flour on the market. I have no idea which is best for growing my sourdough starter. I have 1 packet of Kensington sourdough starter crystals and cannot waste them searching trial and error for the best flour. So I'd like to give you some context to this. So Croatia has a specific system for categorizing different types of flour. Every country pretty much has a specific way that they categorize flour. Some countries also have very unique ways to categorize sugar, but flour is really unique in Croatia, I have found. So one of the very first posts that I did on Expat in Croatia, like 2013, I think, was I created a grid of all the different categorizations of flour in Croatia and then matched them to like the UK, the US, kind of EU, European countries. I can't remember if we did maybe Australia or something. I haven't memorized, but it's one of our more popular posts. So Rob wants to make a sourdough and he doesn't know which flour in Croatia he should be using. So when he asked me this question, I was like, I know exactly who to talk to. Okay, so my buddy Toby is who I knew would know the answer. And I'm going to tell you how I met Toby. So my colleague Cam and I, we were in Jastrebarsko, which is where her family lives, and we were out to dinner with her and her husband, and we heard an American at the next table talking, and Americans tend to gravitate towards Americans, so he started talking to us, and we were chatting, and found out that Toby used to be a pastry chef, and his dad was a pastry chef, and his grandfather was a pastry chef. Like, he comes from a legacy of bakers. And for those of you who don't know, I was a pastry chef in my pre-Croatia life. So we just kind of instantly bonded and started talking about baking. So when Rob asked this question, I was like, I gotta talk to Toby, like, absolutely. So this answer is coming straight from Toby. So you can use all-purpose flour if needed, but a strong, higher gluten flour would be better mixed with about 25 to 35% whole wheat flour. So I'm going to dig into this a little bit deeper, okay? So the one he recommends in particular is from the Čakovečki Mlinovi. So this is Mlinovi is like a mill in Chakovets. It's that specific brand. It's in a white bag that has a photo of a pizza on it, and it's tip 550 or tip 550. It's yeah. We can send you a photo. So if you are interested in this and you want to see a photo of what the bag looks like, send us a DM and Cam can shoot that over to you. So flour for pizza dough is harder than all-purpose, so you'll get a stronger bread. So when we're talking about all-purpose flour, that's an American term. So what you would be looking for in Croatia for all-purpose is TEEP 550. The higher the number, the stronger the flour is. The lower the number, the more delicate, I guess you could say, the flour is. So to summarize, 70% bread flour, harder the better, 30% whole wheat flour. That makes a great starter for the sourdough. And he also said if you can find condensed yeast, that is his preference. But you can use the granulated dry yeast if you can. But I will say this about Croatia. Usually you can find condensed yeast at any supermarket. It's in the refrigerated section, usually by the pig fat. Which pig fat, they call it svinska mast, and it's in these tubs, or svinski mast. It's in these white tubs. Also, mustard usually is nearby, and the mayonnaise and stuff. So it's kind of in that section, in the refrigerated section, kind of nearish the butter, so you can find that. So thank you so much to Toby if you're watching. If you would like our guide on how to buy flour in Croatia, shoot us a DM and we will get that over to you. Okay, so our next question comes from Tony here on Instagram. My residence permit for family reunification ends in July. Do you go through the same process as the first time? Do you submit all the same documents, paperwork for the second, third, fourth time that you reapply for residence? Great question, and I'm shocked that we haven't gotten this question before. Everything is the same. The only difference is that you do not have to submit a new background check. Now, I want to make sure this is abundantly clear. Okay, so I'm going to give you a hypothetical so that you can see the difference between the two situations. So let's say you're a digital nomad. You spend a year here and then you have to wait 6 months in between applications. Okay, so you leave for 90 days, you come back for 90 days, you apply again for residence. You still have to provide a new background check because when we're talking about background checks for residents, they want to see a background check from the country where you have lived for the previous 12 months. So if you are on a work permit, for example, and you submit that background check for your first year, at the end of your first year, you get a new contract from your employer, you apply for residence again, but you've spent your last 12 months in Croatia, so you don't need to get another background check. But if you don't have continuous residence, if there's any kind of break in between your residence where you could potentially go someplace else and commit crimes, then they're going to ask you to provide another background check. It doesn't matter if it's the second, third, fourth time that you're applying. If there's any kind of break, then you have to do that. But if you're staying continuously from application to application, then you do not have to provide a background check again and again for your second, third, fourth, etc. time. So that's really it. Everything else is going to be the same. Everything else you have to provide again. Now, there's one kind of clarification. So you always have to prove that you're covered by health insurance. When you apply the first time, in most cases, if you're getting a residence permit that's not based on work, then you're showing some kind of private health insurance. But if you're staying like a second year and you've signed up for the state health insurance, then your proof of insurance is your insurance card for the state health insurance. So that is a difference that you may encounter. Okay, in terms of what we can send you, we have residence guides for everything, all the different kinds. We also have a master list, so if you don't know what your options are, you can start with that master list and kind of go down and see which one would be the best solution for you. And in that master list, there are links out to our individual guides. There's also a form at the bottom in case you just don't even know where to start. You really don't want to read, you don't want to research, you just want to be like, Sarah, Cam, can you just tell me what the best solution is for me and like walk me through it and just spoon feed it all? Yes, of course we can do that. That's what we do best. So you can do that as well. Okay, Next question comes from Elsie here on Instagram as well. Are there any resources on where to find American quality appliances in Croatia? Do I need to order a washer dryer from Germany? What European country holds similar American standards to washers and dryers? I want laundry to be done in 1 hour instead of days. This one made Camp laugh. Okay, so there's a few things to consider here. So first, the phrase for appliances in Croatian is bijela tehnika, which literally means white goods. I don't quite know why that's the word for appliances, but it is. Okay. So you can find some American brands like Whirlpool, for example. However, you have to keep in mind that if you're going to get an American brand, it's not going to be as easy to service here in Croatia. And this doesn't just apply to appliances. This could also apply to cars, for example. You know, if you want to buy a car, no matter whether you buy it in Croatia or you import it, you want to think about like, okay, can I get it serviced here easily, or is that going to be complicated or difficult? You know, so you always want to keep that in mind when you're buying any kind of big purchase, like anything that would need to be serviced. Also, American brands tend to be more expensive because they are imported from outside the EU, so I have to think about that. There are lots of great international brands, Bosch, Samsung, LG. They're all great quality, and they are serviceable here very easily. So when we're talking about buying a washer, I'm going to tell you my experience because I bought a washer for the apartment that I bought. That was the very first time I've ever bought a washer in my entire life, okay? And I wasn't quite sure where to start, all right? So what I did is there's a store here in Split called Andabaca. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. And I had gotten a lot of good recommendations from people who had bought appliances in Split to buy there for two reasons. One, if you pay in cash, you get a pretty big discount when you're buying. And also they have great service. So if you buy anything from them, then they will arrange the service. So I was really happy with them. I went in there and I was like, look, I just want a good washer. I have two requirements. I want it to be very gentle on my clothes, and I want to make sure it has an A+ energy rating. What do you have for me? And so she zeroed in on this particular Bosch washer, and she said, you know, you have some Bosch washers that are made in Germany, and then you have some Bosch washers that aren't. She said the ones that are made in Germany, those are the ones that you want. So this is the model that I recommend. The quality is going to be much better. And I was like, awesome, sold. And to make like a comparison, I remember when Toyota stopped making cars in Japan and instead started making them in America, and the quality went down. So the last car that I had in the United States was a Toyota Camry, and it was the last year that they were making them in Japan. And if I still had that car today, it would still be running. That car could have run for 30 years, honestly. So that when she told me about how, you know, if the appliance is made in Germany, the quality is going to be better, that's kind of what stuck out in my mind. Okay. And in terms of time, the other things I want to tell you about, particularly with this washer, because she was concerned about it taking a long time, and there are a lot of washers and dryers here that can take a lot of time. Mine in particular has a setting that's at like 15 minutes. It also has an anti-stain function, which I love because I'm a klutz and I'm a slob. So I often get stuff on myself. And there is not a stain that this thing has not been able to get out. And you can actually change it between like blood, grass stains, wine, and oil, I think. Yeah. So I dig it. If you want the exact model, send us a DM and Cam will get that information from me. Okay, now let's talk about dryers, okay? So dryers are not common in Croatia for a couple of reasons. I mean, we have such an abundance of sunshine, so we really dry all of our clothes outside, you know, whether we have space like a rack or a balcony, and some people put it out the window. I mean, that's really how we dry our clothes here. It's affordable and cheap, and that's what's available. Now, Some people do buy dryers. It's not as common, like I said, it's expensive. And also something to keep in mind, and I can't speak to all countries, I can speak to America because that's the experience I have, is that you usually have some kind of hookup for a dryer in the States, and we don't have that here. So the moisture has to go somewhere. So when you buy a dryer here, it has like a vessel is the best way that I could describe it, in like a drawer. And so all the moisture goes into that vessel and condensates and fills up. So you have to empty it out every so often, and then that's how you dry. I used a friend's dryer in Motavun that was like that. And yeah, it took a while to dry. And that's just kind of the nature of it. When you don't have that kind of exhaust, kind of infrastructure, I mean, you can always talk to someone at the appliance shop and say, look, this is what I'm looking for, and they can make a recommendation based on your needs. But in certain things, you're not going to be able to get a one-to-one. And this isn't just on appliances. Like, no matter where you come from in the world, there just may not be something that matches what you're used to. And so you may have to make some compromises, and get over it a little bit, or just make adjustments, be patient, plan ahead, that kind of thing. I mean, it can take time to adjust to those new things, but it's just important to have the right expectations, okay? So the last thing I want to say about appliances is how I've gone about buying appliances. So the appliances I bought so far have been my washer, 2 cleaning units, and an oven. Okay. And again, this is the first time I've owned a home. This is the first time I've ever had to buy appliances. So I was really kind of starting from scratch. And so I got the washer and the Klima units from Anzabaca, and then the oven I got online. I think it was through mall.hr, actually. I think that's possible. So what I wanted everything to be A+ ratings, and that was really important to me. And I have to tell you, I can tell in my energy bill, because at my last apartment, my energy bills were 100 euros plus per month. And here they're 50. And I've been here now 2.5 years. So I've gone through all the adjustment bills and nothing's going up. So I'm really pleased with my decisions. But with the oven in particular and the Klima, I basically looked up lists of like, what is the best appliance, and most of the time I couldn't really find lists for that. For like in Croatia, it's hard to even find lists like that in Europe, but I did for the UK, did for the US. So then I would just see which models and brands were available here, or whatever their equivalent was. So that's kind of the thought process I went through. So you can buy these appliances online if you don't want to go to a store. That's definitely possible. There are tons of appliance shops in Croatia. Okay, so next it's time for our lawyer tip of the week. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, and this one's going to save you money. So, okay. If you receive a ticket for a minor offense up to 265 euros and 45 cents, which is the equivalent to 2,000 kuna, you can legally pay half of the fine if you do it within 3 days of the citation. If you pay within 3 days, it also does not go on your misdemeanor record. If this is your first misdemeanor stop in the calendar year, you are entitled to a warning instead of a ticket. Always pay within 3 days and keep your record clean. For everything above 265 euros, object within 8 days. Once you are summoned to court, the judges have a wide-ranging discretion to minimize the fine to a very low amount, possibly less than half. The court fees are only 20 to 30 euros. So they're almost always willing to lower the amount if you are polite and remorseful. However, there's something you should take into consideration if you're not fluent in Croatian. If you're not, that means you need a court interpreter to come with you to the court date. So you really just, if that's your situation and you need a court interpreter, you really should look at how much the fine is, what your court fees are going to be, what the cost of the interpreter is, and then you can determine which option is going to be cheaper for you. Okay? So that's our lawyer tip of the week. Hope you enjoyed it. All right, our next question comes from Patty on the 5-Question Friday forum. If my Croatian citizenship application gets denied, will I be able to reapply again? And we actually had, on last week's episode, we did a question about getting denied, but it was more about the administrative disputes. So I would just want to make sure these are two different questions with regards to citizenship denial. So if you missed that and you want to understand more about that, check out last week's episode. All right, so she wants to know, if I'm denied for citizenship, can I reapply again? You cannot reapply again on the same basis. You have to choose a different basis if you're going to apply for citizenship again. So to give you an example, if you apply based on descent and you are denied, then your natural next step is to apply based on Article 16, which is member of the Croatian people. So whenever you don't qualify for descent based on some kind of technicality, then usually you can apply on Article 16. It's a bit more of a vague article, whereas descent, it's like, okay, you provide this, and then you should get citizenship. But with Article 16, it's not like that. It's like a narrative paragraph that is not very specific. So that's good in some respects because it means that it can cover a lot of different situations, but it's not good in other respects because it means that there's more discretion involved in the decision on the part of the ministry and the caseworker in particular. So to give you another example, I applied based on Article 12. If I were to get denied, then my natural next step would be to apply based on Article 8, which is naturalization. And I didn't do that in the first place because if I do Article 8, they would make me give up my American citizenship. And that's a decision I want to make. I don't want Croatia to make that decision for me. It's a very big decision to make that. And I'm just not ready. I'm not ready for that just yet. But if that were to happen, that would be the next step. But that is the extent of that energy that I'm going to put out into the universe because I believe that I will be granted Croatian citizenship and everything will be fine. Okay. We have all the guides on citizenship, so if you would like any of that, let us know. If you don't even know where to begin with that process, send us a DM and Cam will get you started, okay? So here's our last question. This comes from Jordan on the 5-Question Friday forum. I'm hoping to apply for the digital nomad permit through my current UK company to help me move to Croatia. If it's approved, what are the implications if my employment circumstances change? For example, if I want to change jobs or go freelance, would it affect my digital nomad status? Or is it the case that once your permit is approved, you're approved to stay for the full year? Once you're approved to stay for the entire year. Croatia is not going to come and check up on you to see if you still have the same employment. So you're good there. I do want to say, though, for full disclosure, because I don't want to give the appearance that I'm trying to advise people to mislead the government, because I'm not, and I don't think anyone ever should, okay? If you're on a residence permit that you do not actually qualify for, it is considered fraud, okay? Now, with a digital nomad permit, it is unlikely that anyone is ever going to pursue that with you. Sometimes people get fired, sometimes their employment changes, and that's just the way that it goes. I've even seen people who are retired who have used the digital nomad permit. So they applied for the permit in their last month of employment because they had that history, but then they moved to Croatia and they were retired, and that is, fraud, guys. But like I said, it's just Croatia doesn't have the infrastructure or the resources to be able to pursue something like that. But where it's going to be serious and you do have a higher risk is if you get married solely so that you can get residence in Croatia, but you're not in a romantic relationship and you're not living on the same address. And another example of that is I saw some people who were married, but they were not in a romantic relationship anymore. They had not lived together for years, but the husband was still leveraging family reunification with his spouse. That is also fraud. So that is a no-no. If you do that, you need to understand that there are serious risks with that. It actually says fraud in the law, so just keep that in mind, okay? Let me see if I've covered everything. Yes, I have. Okay, so if you need any guides related to this topic, we have our digital nomad permit guide. We have a FAQ for the digital nomad permit. And then we have our latest post about how Croatia is planning to close the loophole for digital nomad as well as other purposes. If you have not seen that and you are on residence for digital nomad or other purposes, you need to know about that. You need to know about it. It's super mega important. So if you don't know what we're talking about, send us a DM and say, Cam, loophole, give it to me. And she will. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this week's questions. There are a wide variety this week. I love variety. So if there are any burning questions that you have, and I mean, come on, today we talked about sourdough. There is no limit to the kind of question that you can ask. Shoot it over to us. Drop a comment, and you may see it here on a future episode. So thank you so much for being here. Next week, next Friday, I will be on Island Susac for the 144th episode of 5 Question Friday. Holy crap, I cannot believe it's been 144 episodes of me sitting here answering questions live for you. But I love it. I love it so much. I'm full of energy today. What am I going to do after this? All right, guys. If you want to stay tuned to my day trip to the Cetina, look on stories on Sunday. And that's it. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. Vidimo, say ciao.